You know, in the world of high-stakes construction claims, the whole game is changing. For decades, it was all about who could tell the best story. Well, not anymore. Now it's about who has the best data. We're talking about a massive shift away from subjective arguments to objective visual proof. It's a journey from chaos to clarity, and in this explainer, we're going to show you exactly how it's done. This quote right here, it absolutely nails the core problem. I mean, think about it. Every single project creates this mountain of data, right? But disputes still end up as a he said, she said battle. The real issue isn't that the delay didn't happen, it's that no one can actually show the straight line from the cause to the effect in a way that's just undeniable. So for years, right, claims were all about human memory and these carefully crafted stories. But in the digital world we live in today, that foundation is just completely falling apart. The era where the best storyteller wins, yeah, that's pretty much over. And here's the big shift right here. Look at how the main question has changed. We're moving way beyond, so does this story sound kind of believable, which is all about memory and persuasion? The new question is, does the data actually support this conclusion? And that demands a level of forensic truth, from records you can actually check, that a simple story could never, ever match. And this is the thing, right? This isn't just some philosophical shift in thinking. No, it's a real-world, practical change in what actually counts as credible evidence. Arbitrators, judges, they're now demanding proof that can be audited and verified, not just a story you hope they'll believe. Okay, so how do you actually meet this new standard? Well, it all starts with building what you could call a digital reality, a verified digital model of how the project really went down. This becomes the solid, unshakable foundation for the entire claim. And let's be super clear, this is not a simulation of what should have happened. Nope, it's a painstaking reconstruction of what did happen, built from every piece of raw data you can get your hands on. Baselines, emails, site diaries, you name it. The goal isn't to cherry-pick the good parts, the goal is completeness, because that's where your credibility comes from. And this part is absolutely key. This digital twin, it's not curated to sell a story. It is built to survive an audit. What that means is contradictions aren't swept under the rug, they're resolved. Gaps aren't ignored, they're acknowledged. That integrity is what gives everything that comes next its real power. Okay, so once you have that solid as a rock digital reality, what's next? Well, now comes the forensic transformation. This is where modern tools come in to help you cut through the chaos of all that raw data and find the clean, clear signals of what really caused the delay. The whole process really boils down to three main steps. First, you assemble that digital twin we just talked about. Second, you use AI power tools to scan everything, find patterns, and check the data's integrity. And third, you connect the dots. You map those verified disruptions directly to the project's critical path. Now, when we say AI, it's not about robots taking over. It's about doing this at a scale and consistency a human just can't match. It finds what are called disruption signatures. These are the subtle patterns, like spotty access to the site or approvals that trickle in one by one, that might seem like no big deal on their own, but when you see them happening over and over, you realize they're having a huge impact. So all of this brings us right back to the number one reason claims fail, proving causation. See, it's not enough to just list a bunch of bad things that happened. You have to build an unbreakable bridge that shows exactly how that event messed with the final deadline. And to do that, you have to be incredibly disciplined about time. You can't use hindsight. The only question that matters is, did this event impact the critical path at the exact moment it happened? You have to analyze the project's status back then to show the real objective impact. But look, all this deep analysis is totally worthless if the person making the decision doesn't get it, right? So the last and maybe the most important step is to turn all that complicated, techie stuff into visual evidence that's simple, focused, and just makes sense instantly. And this is where you really see the magic happen. Instead of handing an arbitrator a binder the size of a phone book, they see a heat map showing exactly where all the problems were concentrated. They see a chart that cuts through the noise and isolates the one path that actually delayed the project. They can even use 4D models to literally scroll through time and watch where the plan and reality went their separate ways. And what this all leads to is, well, it's pretty powerful. That gap between what was planned and what really happened, the delta, it's not something you argue about anymore. It's something you can just see. So when you walk into a room with a claim built on this kind of foundation, auditable data, tough analysis, and crystal clear visuals, it just completely changes the entire conversation. And here's the killer advantage. the burden of proof completely flips. You're no longer trying to persuade someone to believe your story. You're presenting a forensic model of reality and basically saying, okay, prove this isn't what happened. And that is a much, much harder thing to do. So what's the bottom line here? It's simple. Disputes get settled way faster. When you systematically remove all the uncertainty, the arguments get smaller, and settlements get made based on facts, not on who can hold out the longest. All right, to pull this all together, just picture this in your head. Imagine a massive tangled knot of cables. It's a total mess, it's chaotic, you can't make sense of it. That's the raw data from a construction project. But then, out of that mess, you see a single glowing line emerge. It's clean, it's structured, it's verified. That path is forensic logic. That's the transformation we've been talking about this whole time, turning impossible chaos into undeniable proof. And listen, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea for the future. This disciplined, data-first approach, it's quickly becoming the new benchmark. It's what's expected right now in any serious dispute. Which really leaves just one final critical question that you have to ask yourself. When the time comes, is your evidence going to be ready for this new standard?